welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is the first time that you are joining me. Today, as you can see from the title, I'm going to be doing the no disclaimers tarot tag that was started, I'm sure everybody knows by now, by Katie Flowers, and it was an adaptation of a tag that is done fairly regularly still, I think, in the BookTube community. I have watched quite a few videos. I've also spent some time with these questions because there were certain questions where I actually had to go away and do some research because I didn't know the answers without looking into it and thinking about it a bit more. Look, I bashed something off my wall. Can you see that? Bastards. Anyway, and yeah, I think I'm going to find this really hard just because I'm a Libran, so, and just, you know, I say that as an excuse, but I am generally one of those people who can see all sides of a situation and always tries to consider all sides of a situation in like every opinion I've ever had about anything ever. So it's almost second nature to give disclaimers or to sound like I'm giving disclaimers because I will think something and then I'll immediately also want to give the other side of that thing. So yeah, I think I'm going to find this really challenging. I feel like I'm already giving a disclaimer, but I haven't started answering the questions yet, so I'm not entirely sure that counts. But let's just jump on it and let's see how we get on, shall we? Okay, question number 1. What trends, tropes in tarot annoy you the most? For me, it's got to be gilded edges and this trend of making thicker and thicker and thicker cardstock, like decks with thicker cardstock until they just become, in my opinion, completely unusable. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't want gilded edges. I don't want linen cardstock. Anybody who has been around a little bit with me knows very well how I feel about linen cardstock. I don't care. Like, tarot decks to me are a tool, and that tool should be functional, not fucking pretty. I mean, I don't mind a bit of pretty, but if the prettiness starts to affect the functionality of the tool, that is a problem for me. And I think that when you start going on to gilded edges and thicker cardstock and, you know, on all of that jazz, that it reaches a point where it starts to affect the functionality of the tool, and that is a problem for me. So yes, that is something that annoys me a lot, actually. Question number 2. Which deck do you feel is overrated? This was hard, but I'm gonna go with, and I know I'm gonna get hate for this, the many different iterations of the traditional RWS, like the Centennial and the Borderless and but I don't know all the different names because I don't care. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, people go crazy trying to get hold of the Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith and I might have even just made that up. And the vintage Raider, I mean, they're all vintage, surely. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, so there's just the many, like, and then you have people, and no shade, because people can do whatever the fuck they like, but people who literally have 20 different versions of what is effectively the same fucking deck. I don't get it. I don't get it. And so I feel like it might be a little bit overrated because I don't get it personally. I really want to justify and disclaim, but I'm not going to. That's just how I feel about it. Question number 3. What are your least favourite decks since you've joined TarotTube? This, again, was hard. There were a few that I could have picked, but one that doesn't seem to be talked about quite so much anymore because it's no longer new, but I know was like hugely popular for a long time, and I've seen people do like negative reviews of it and been massively shot down for that, and that is the Wild Unknown. Another thing that I just don't get. I have tried it. I have a friend of mine had a copy and I've tried reading with it, and yeah, I don't get it. There's just like it. I'm sure it broke loads of boundaries when it was first made, and, you know, and it did all kinds of fancy shit that, like, opened doors or whatever. I don't know, I'm just waffling now. Lots of traffic. That's a bus. Apologies. But yeah, I don't like it. I don't get it. I will never own it. I will never work with it. It doesn't work for me. It's probably, of a lot of the decks that I've seen that people love, it's probably one of my least favourites. And there were probably other ones that I could have named too, but that was just the one that I thought of. Question number 4. What is one card that has ruined a deck for you? That has to be the Temptation card, which I think is the Devil, right? In the Slow Tarot. I love the style of that deck. I genuinely considered owning a copy of that deck when it was getting ready to be produced. And yeah, I hate that card. I hate that card. And I know I'm probably not alone in this. I know for a fact I'm not alone in this. I do not have a problem with, per se, with the Temptation, the Devil, being shown as a fat woman who's clearly enjoying herself and indulging herself in all these wonderful, beautiful foods and all that kind of stuff. Totally get, actually, the meaning in that card and how it relates to that idea of temptation and all that kind of stuff. And I totally wouldn't have a problem with it if she hadn't, I don't know if the creator was a she, I don't know why I said that. I'm not very good with creators. I would have been fine with that if they hadn't chosen to have the only fat person in the entire deck surrounded by food in the Temptation card. Like, fat people, we're all fat because we cannot control ourselves. Like, it's offensive. Fuck off. Seriously. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I'm not actually easily offended. I have to admit, I'm not somebody who's easily offended by things. And on a personal level, it doesn't bother me. Like, I don't find it hurtful. I just find it really fucking irritating that is the decision the creator made. And so I didn't buy that deck. Question number 5. Which out of print deck do you wish was still in print? Okay, so this is technically still available but no longer in print, so hopefully that counts. Was that a disclaimer? No, it was not. And if it was, I don't care. The Bone, Stone and Earth Flesh Tarot. I love Anna Turin's artwork. Like, mate, fuck off with your motorbike. I do love Anna Turin's artwork a lot. I discovered that when I got Tarot of the Abyss, and I really, really appreciate her style. And I wish I had bought a copy of this deck when it first came out. And I do know that there are copies available. Like, you can probably buy one on Etsy, and I know you can still buy some off Evelyn Cameron's website. I am never going to pay that much for a deck. It's not happening. It's not reasonable. In my head, that's just not reasonable. For a deck of cards, no. Not reasonable. It's just not. And I probably could put a bit of money aside for a couple of months and quite comfortably spend that money on a deck of cards. But I'm not willing to, because I think that is a fucking ridiculous amount of money to spend on what is effectively 78 pieces of card. And I'm not willing to do that. I am aware that I'm swearing a lot in this one, so apologies for anyone who's offended, but that's what I do. Question number 6. What are some of your tarot and TarotTube pet peeves? I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been watching TarotTube for a while now. I kind of dip in and out and I watch random videos here and there, but I haven't been consistently involved in the community for a while. But speaking of community, that is probably the one thing that is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, is this tendency for people, when they do discuss the community in TarotTube, to either act as if it is a homogenous body and that every single person in it thinks, feels, acts, behaves and believes in exactly the same way, which is ridiculous, or believes that there is no sense of community and there is no tarot community because every single person in it doesn't act, think, behave, and whatever else it was I said in the same way. I find that bizarre. Any group of people, large group of people that come together and share a common interest are a community. Like, they just are. That doesn't mean you have to agree with, like, associate with, follow, comment on, whatever, every single person who makes videos on TarotTube. It doesn't mean that you have to know everybody. It doesn't even mean you have to like everybody. But every single person who in some way engages in TarotTube, whether they make videos, watch videos, comment or not, whether they actively have their own decks or they just like watching other people who do, whatever, every single one of them is part of the TarotTube community, and every single one of them is an individual who thinks, feels, believes, behaves, whatever, in a completely different way to the next person, because that's how human beings are. And communities are made up of human beings, so they're messy and often dysfunctional because we're messy and often dysfunctional. So yeah, that is a thing that peeves me. I might cut this out and edit it, we'll see. What are some, question 7, what are some decks that you feel should have more recognition? Hang on. Okay, I meant to bring the deck with me and I forgot, so I went and got it. The one that springs to mind for me is the Cute and Creepy Tarot by Misha. I never, ever hear anyone talk about this deck, ever. And I think it is pretty fucking wonderful. I mean, not gonna lie, it's totally my jam. So I feel like everybody should appreciate it as much as I do, because I love it. And I just think what I really like about this is that Misha is not a tarot reader. She is a tattooist and an artist who wanted to create her own deck. And clearly, as someone outside of the tarot world, approached that in a way that was really respectful, because she spent an awful lot of time understanding all the different meanings of the cards so that she could do her best to illustrate them in the best possible way. Did she always get it right? No, not in my opinion. But she did. Overall, she did a fucking fantastic job. And it's just, I love her style. Anyway, I love her art style. I love anything Crete and Cupy. That's the words we're going with now. Cute and creepy. Yeah, I think it's absolutely amazing, and I don't understand why more people don't talk about it or own it or are aware of it. I wish everybody, like this one for me is one where she didn't do necessarily so well because it looks a bit 8 of Swordsy, and it's obviously not, it's the 9 of Swords, but in general there are so many good choices, Genuinely think this is an amazing deck. I wish more people would appreciate it as much as I do, because I like it, so why don't you? I don't actually believe that. Anyway, that is my answer to question 7. And then question 8, nice juicy one. What are your thoughts on negative reviews? So, there seems to be, again, a bit of a backlash about negative reviews in the TarotTube community, which doesn't exist necessarily in other communities like the BookTube community and stuff. Personally, I think negative reviews are absolutely fine. I think that it is important when we watch reviews that we remember that as reviewers, any one of us who does a review on a tarot deck, as reviewers, what we are doing is talking about our preferences and generally, and how well a deck aligns with our own preferences. That's all they are. That's all negative reviews are. That's all positive reviews are too, right? Because even if you're talking about a guidebook or cardstock, those things are still subjective based on your preference. Somebody like me is going to look at videos, look at decks that have really, that have linen cardstock, for example. People know how I feel about that. And that is going to negatively affect my opinion of the deck. And so my review may highlight that in a negative way. Other people fucking love linen cardstock for reasons that baffle me, but you know, each to their own, even if they're wrong. Only joking. And so they're not going to see that as a negative. Like guidebooks, if you're somebody who likes a really in-depth guidebook and you really like to get your teeth into guidebooks, something I don't care all that much about. I don't spend a huge amount of time with the guidebooks that come with my decks because unless it's something where there's a lot of information in the guidebook about how the art it was decided or why specific choices were made. And like, I don't really care all that much about a guidebook. So if you're somebody who really loves that in-depth, get your teeth into the meanings of each card kind of guidebook, like you like your guidebooks to be like this big or whatever, if you get a little white book with some keywords, that's going to be a problem for you, and you're going to talk about that negatively in your review. I don't think that's a problem. If I just get a little white book, I'm kind of okay with that because I don't really care anyway. I don't really, like, guidebooks are kind of a meh for me. So I wouldn't review a little white book necessarily in a negative way. So I say all of this to illustrate the point that I'm trying to make, which is that reviews about something as subjective as tarot are subjective because they are reviewing a subjective item. Where am I going with this? So I don't have a problem with negative reviews. I think they're fine. I think as a consumer of reviews, your job is to remember that they are subjective and that just because X person has reviewed this thing that you love negatively, it doesn't mean that that thing that you love is negative, or that there's something wrong with you because you love it and they don't, or that there's something wrong with them because they obviously can't understand why this deck is amazing and therefore it's your job to tell them. As long as we appreciate that what reviews are and that they are just really people talking about their preferences, then yeah, I don't see a problem with that. Having said that, this is not a disclaimer, this is just like a, on the other hand, if your review is just an excuse to be shitty towards another human being because they've, I don't even know why. There's probably a myriad of reasons why you would want to be shitty towards another human being for whatever. But if your review is just an excuse to shit on another human being and make shitty, controversial remarks for likes or views or whatever, then I think that's a bit shit. Hence the word shitty a number of times. If I click on your review and clearly your review is just a way to be, I don't even know the word, to just, if you're just literally shitting on another human being's work for the sake of being whatever it is that you're trying to be, I'm not interested in that. And I'm probably not going to watch it, but you do you, boo. I don't care. You know, that's your choice. But that is not the kind of content that I personally I'm going to consume. So, yeah. That's me then. I'm done. I don't know yet if I'm going to post this or I'm going to refilm it with slightly less swearing. But we'll see what happens. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you hopefully all again soon for another one. Take care. Lots of love. Bye bye.